All right. Hey, She Army. Welcome to episode 46 of the Simply She Podcast Live. Slay Your Career Goals. I'm your host, Crystal Renee, and today we're going to be discussing what it takes to advance in your career as a woman and some real life barriers that women are facing when they are trying to go for those C suite and executive level positions, especially in the oil, gas, and tech industries. I'm going live today using StreamYard. And as I like to say, there's no pause, there's no rewind. We are unfiltered. And since I'm using StreamYard, in order to be able to comment under your name on Facebook, you will have to grant StreamYard access to your Facebook. This can be revoked at any time. But you can still leave comments. We just won't be able to see who you are. And throughout the show, feel free to ask questions and leave a comment. And we'll also be taking some questions at the end. So a lot of my show maintain careers, right? So the goal is always advancement and excellence. So how can we as women take the next step in our career? How can we climb the corporate ladder while we still face racism, sexism, ageism, injustice, bias, inequity, lack of diversity, and so many other challenges on our way to being successful in our industry? Women, and especially women of color, have so many challenges in the workplace. And women earn, I think, between like 70 to 80 cents to every dollar that a man earns. So if we take time out to even have children, I know I think we can stand to lose up to $900,000 over the lifetime of our career for doing so. And I know that me personally, I've faced many challenges as someone working in the government contracting industry. Constantly having to prove myself, and this not so subtle examples of sexism, racism, and ageism from men, and then the perpetuation of that cycle from female leadership is so frustrating. And so, although all this still remains true, we have an expert in the house today that is going to be talking about navigating complexities of career advancement and leadership. And I'm super excited to introduce her. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about her. So, Green from Houston, Texas, is a highly sought after career strategist and coach to women who want to move up the ladder and understand exactly how to negotiate in the tech, oil, and gas industries. She also works with small businesses in tech, oil, and gas who are seeking market strategy and how to align with the corporations they seek opportunities with. Her clients are typically women who are trying to transition into senior leadership roles in a male dominated space. At the young age of 23, Daniela began a fast paced climb to the top in the oil and gas industry before branching out to pave the way for many women just like her to come from behind. As a woman of color, educated and desire to constantly get more out of her career, she knows firsthand of the complexities that women of color face and women in general. She has made it her mission to dedicate her time to assisting other women of color in finding confidence to advance their careers and businesses. She created her platform to help eliminate the guessing games, the fear of not knowing how, and to teach minorities how to win in the good old boys world. She saw a way to bridge the gap and accomplish her goals in predominantly white male industries and is assisting women all throughout the world in attaining their career goals. Her company, Slaypedia, was created due to her understanding of the lack of resources available to people of color as it pertains to advancement in the tech world, oil, and gas. Her entire platform is dedicated to empowerment, inspiration, and motivation. She has worked closely with developing and helping minorities advance in executive leadership at companies like ConocoPhillips, Viacom, Shell Oil, and the Amazon Partnership Program, helping minority owned companies secure business with them. She has worked with the Haiti Medical Grant Programs and South Africa's Black Economic Empowerment to help in the advancement of Black engineers in the gas and oil world. She is the creator of the trending podcast Slaypedia, the Wall Street Chick, which has over 250,000 subscribers on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Apple TV, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. She created a masterclass, which is often sold out, titled $200,000 Career Blueprint, which helps women seeking to move into leadership roles in tech, oil, and gas. Slaypedia, the Wall Street Chick, breaks down the strategy and habits of the most powerful and wealthiest people in the world and dissects the most successful launches of small businesses in tech, oil, and gas with the latest information in the Wall Street Journal. She's dedicated to breaking generational curses and scarcity mindsets by bringing wealth building conversations to the Black and Brown communities. Please help me in welcoming Daniella Green to the show, guys.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me on.
So,
It
Daniella,
really is nice.
you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, can you just tell us a little bit about how you got started in the oil and gas industry?
Sure. I went to school. You can hear me well, correct? You guys, I went to
Yes, I can
school.
hear you.
Okay, I went to the high school I went to had an engineering academy, and I just decided to take a class, and I instantly fell in love with it. It really started out with me being a STEM kid. My mom had me in a lot of STEM programs, and so I simply went into engineering. It was natural for me. And I want to point out one of the reasons I picked engineering is because a family friend was an engineer, and that was the first time I saw a Black woman in engineering. So that was representation is everything. And so I went to school for engineering, and my first job fresh out of college was with Shell Oil, and the rest is history.
Awesome. Yeah, you're so right. Representation is important. And I know that
It
I didn't
is.
necessarily have those examples in my life. My family, they're all teachers. So it was really out of the box for me to choose a science to go into, let alone a male dominated field. So kudos to you in that.
Thank you.
Um, what would you say is the most common question with women looking?
It broke up a little bit. Can you repeat that for me?
Yeah, I said, what would you say is the most common question that you receive when working with women looking to advance in their career?
A lot of people come to me in a burnout phase, right? And so I'm usually acting as a therapist before I'm a career counselor or executive or leadership coach. And that's simply because the mental and the emotional aware of trying to do this without representation, without having someone you can go to, it makes it even much more intense. And so typically when women reach out to me, they are burnout and they're at a point where they let it go for so many years that they were underpaid. And they're just kind of like, okay, something's wrong. Something has to give. And I want to do something about it. So I typically get people when they are at their most emotional, vulnerable, and burnout phase.
Okay. What would you say some of the challenges that women face when they're trying to advance might not be aware of?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry. I want to make sure I answer it right.
Yeah, I was saying, what are some of the challenges that you feel when they're trying to advance that everyone might not be aware of?
Communication. A lot of the time, and there's cultural implications here. So, in the Black community, we normally revere authority in a sense of you don't talk back, you don't ask too many questions, and so we always think that to ask for more money is rocking the boat. That's something I get a lot, and so that's the first place. Another place is the communication. If you can't communicate what you bring to the table and what you contribute to an organization, how your work impacts that organization in a professional way, you're going to stay there. Most people are speaking from an emotional space. And that sounds like, oh, I carry the department. They give me everything. When you are pissed off, that's not the time to negotiate because you're coming from an emotional place. You want to negotiate when you're coming from a place of logic and you've been able to sit down and help your organization understand or your future employer understand how you contribute and what you contribute and what level, most importantly, what level you're actually contributing on.
Absolutely. I remember the first time I actually had to advocate for myself for a
Mhm.
raise. It was like the scariest thing that I had to do, I think. Well, one of the scariest things that I actually had to do because it was just kind of like, like you said, there was that fear, like, oh no, like this, like how like I knew they had the money to do it, but there was just so much fear behind me just actually taking the steps to go ahead and like pretty much write up my expertise and say and like be able to talk and say, here's what I've done. Here's here's what I'm capable of, and here's where I can take the department or take the organization. So it was
No,
scary. I
yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah, the negotiations are not natural for a lot of women of color, and it also depends on what kind of homes we come from. I read a article years ago, and it said that a white male child, typically in white households, children are taught it's okay to negotiate at 10 years old. At 10, and so in the black household, and so that's where that comes from, that you're being out of line. I know that makes me laugh when I hear it, and it's true though. And that's why we feel so like, ooh, do I say so? It feels uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I heard the word negotiate until I got to like high school, college. It was like
Yeah,
negotiate. We
no.
don't negotiate this house.
And
uh,
that's one of the reasons why we feel so icky about it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely. So here's one where I think listeners definitely want to know, how do people or even, well, I would say women in business tend to limit themselves when it comes to career advancement? Like, what are we not doing? Or, I know like negotiation is one, but is there anything else that we're not doing when it comes to taking that next step, either in business or career?
Yes. When you go to work, this is not a place for you to make friends, and this is not a place for you to take things personal. A lot of the time, we hang around people who are in the same position as us. You complaining to people who are in the same position, or water cooler gossip. You're not networking because it feels fake, and you're not cool with those people. Or I don't know those people. Are they racist? Or I heard that they don't like me. No, ma'am. That's a business move. I can't tell you how many times I've done business with people who I do not care for. Just recently, I had one of my biggest clients to sign a contract with me for 2023, to pay a significant amount of money to me in 2023. And he was a hardcore Trump supporter. Now, will we go out for drinks? No. And so the point is that when it's business at hand, we have to learn how to separate that from personal. I meet many women who tell me, I'll ask them, how many people in your leadership group do you know? How many people in leadership at your company do you know? Well, I don't speak to them. I don't talk to them. It's personal for you. It's business. You should be speaking. Go to lunch with people who you don't know. Get to know what other departments do. To the person who seems to get away with murder, befriend them. Get to know what skill set they bring to the table. This is a place for you to grow and expand. And so many of us as women, we take it so personal. We take it so, so personal.
Yep. I definitely agree. I tell like some of the folks that I mentor in the past in my organization, I would tell them like, we're not here to make friends. Like, you don't come to work to make friends. You come to work to
Yeah.
work. And if you're serious about, advancing and taking to the next level, then like you said, you will network, you will talk to people, you will find out what other people in the organization are doing, and you will, you know, be, I would say like, be in their circle, essentially. Like
Mm-hmm.
learn, be able to contribute, be a thought leader, to be able to advance. So I
Right.
completely 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, when people work with you, what is that process?
The first place I like to start with a person is I allow them to get it out so that I can see where this is coming from. 9 times out of 10, it's imposter syndrome. That's the feeling you felt when you said you were negotiating. You didn't feel like you were rightfully supposed to be there. We worked through because I can't do anything with you if you have imposter syndrome. So that's the first thing I work through to get you to understand that. Another thing is to basically bring it to light. I always do an assessment with my clients to show them, here's what you bring to the table, and here's how much you're getting paid, and here's how much someone else who's negotiating is getting paid that doesn't even have half of your credentials. And most of the time, that's where people just kind of come forward like, whoa, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. Another place I like to start is their professional brand. You do need to have a professional brand online. Your LinkedIn is not a place to copy and paste your resume and get off. If you are telling me you want to be an executive, a VP, you should be writing articles. You should be posting. You should be active on there. You should be connecting to people who are in places at a company you're trying to get to. Everything counts. Everything matters. And so building an online professional brand, that is the way of the world right now. If you do an interview and you don't know how to use Zoom, I don't know what to tell you. And so LinkedIn is the first point of contact right now. LinkedIn is a place where if you have a resume, I have so many people tell me their resume isn't working. Well, it's not working because the resume is slowly becoming extinct. No one cares about your resume until they've seen your LinkedIn first. And so if you haven't put that time and effort into your LinkedIn profile, you don't stand out on LinkedIn, you're not active, you're not a power profile, then chances of you getting that 200,000, 190 a year opportunity is not going to be there. So that's where I start. Then we move into negotiation strategy, because asking for more money is not about just cash. What about severance? What about if they get bought out? What about stock options? What about opportunities for you to buy into companies? And I've done this. Every time a company was bought under shell, I would go in as an investor. And so that was because I negotiated that. So they would give me a heads up before it went out to the market. And so these are things that my clients have to learn. It's not about just making money. You can make a salary for 10 years, but what about the 10 years after when you leave? And so that's how we negotiate in my program. I go through that very much so in depth. And last but not least, making sure that you are interview ready. A lot of people get really nervous in interviews. So imagine a panel interview for an executive role. It's not like your average interview where they structure the questions. They kind of just give you the wheel and they just want to sit back and watch how you feel, because confidence is everything. And so if you can't sell yourself in a simple conversation like this, you're probably going to struggle in an executive or a leadership interview. And so I like to prep them verbatim on, hey, here's how you respond. Watch your body language, understanding their personality types and things of that nature. And so we sweep through quite a bit in the program.
That's amazing. I have like, that's truly, truly amazing. And I'm glad you're doing that. That's like it's so needed. When I do,
Yeah.
because a lot like, can you help me prepare for this interview? Can you look over my resume? And I can't teach you everything to know the night before, or
No,
like give you those, like really give you all the pointers you would remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think going through a program like yours, absolutely, I think it's very valuable.
It is. And I think it's most important when we go to career coaches that we go to someone that understands what barriers we face. I do not mean to say this.
This is great.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It was a delay.
I was going to say, when it comes to executive leadership, you find that people lack the most, and how can they hone this skill over time so they are ready for this type of position?
Can you ask me that again? It broke off a little bit.
Yeah, I'm saying, when it comes to executive leadership, what skill do you find that people lack the most, and how can they hone that they're ready for these positions?
Confidence. When you're a leader, you are over a lot. You are responsible. These people are going to come to you for answers. And so if you don't have confidence, if you're not sure you're supposed to be in that interview, if you feel like, wow, this is a lot, they're going to feel that. If you do, body language where you're closed, or you're just saying yes and nervous, you have no questions in the interview, you're not relaxed, all of that translates. I always like to ask people, what makes you trust a person before you vote for them? It's their confidence level. It's their ability. You may not even understand anything about GDP when you vote for presidents, but if they're confident, you're voting for them. A lot of the times confidence can sell anything. And so how confident are you in your skill set is one, and it makes sure it's not coming off as desperation. That's how we get in playing the game of lowball offers in the first place. And so that confidence is a skill that it's not easy to zone in on, but it takes practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Like, just y'all, she's dropping gems today. I hope y'all listening, and I hope y'all gonna listen
Yeah.
to the replay. If y'all not live, I'm trying to tell you. So again, I think this relates to kind of the your program and what it like what it's like. But tell us about your master class, the 200K career blueprint. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my master's class actually is spinning off into two parts. So, first is building that professional brand and profile, the negotiations, the full package, understanding how to master an interview at a leadership level. And then the second part is when you get into this organization and you're a director, a VP, or a senior management, what are your rollout plans? What are you going to do when you get in there? And so I'm also walking my clients through rollouts and leadership development initiatives and things of that caliber because you want to go in and have an impact. And most people, for their first time that come to me, this is their first time going in the leadership route. So they are nervous, they are scared. And what tends to happen is if you're going the leadership route, you don't know what to expect with that role. It's not just about handling your deliverables and emailing it off to somebody. You're responsible for people's career growth. You're responsible for the trajectory of an entire corporation. And so what does those initiatives look like? What do you say? And so that's where the second part of the program that I roll out in February is coming out with. So most of the people who went through the first half of my program, they're going into the leadership initiative development program.
That's so amazing because I feel like that's where a lot of leaders lack. It's the what to do now that I'm in this role
Mm-hmm.
um, piece of things. Kind of like they um, they get in the role. Maybe they're qualified. Maybe they're not qualified. That's a whole other conversation. But essentially, like to be able to take a department or a team of, let's say, 50, 100 people, like especially if in a large corporation, take them to the next level and be able to think strategically, and really, not like you said, not just hit check off deliverables, but actually change, create growth, and really, coach the people that they have to be able to, exude excellence, really, in whatever the
Right.
department's goals are, or whatever the organization's goals are.
I think the most important thing about my program is the fact that I am a woman of color. So there's not I don't think it's a smart thing for you to have a coach who has not been in a position you've been in. So I've been there before and I understand the implications. I know what it feels like when you're in an interview and somebody's butchering your name, or when you get into that interview, the questions become a little bit more aggressive with you because it's like you have to kind of prove yourself. Oh, you have a degree in engineering? I know what that feels like. And so, being a woman of color, I not only prep my clients for interviews, but I also prep them for the impact of racism, how to maneuver their way through that, and how to go into a corporation and handle politics intelligently.
Right. That's important. I think that's also another that's like an unspoken that we have to deal with, and I'm like so happy that you're teaching people how to navigate that, because it is very tricky. And for those of us who maybe listening may not have experienced that, it's the things that are unspoken, the looks that you get, the extra work that you get, just because the whispering that you're not qualified, but yet you still deliver with excellence and on time.
Right.
So I know a lot of folks who may be listening may not have experienced that, and I hope you never have to experience it. But for those of us who have and who continue to experience it, Daniella's program is like definitely spot on, because it's tricky to navigate, and if you make a misstep, you could find yourself on the wrong side of the fence.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's what they're counting on, for you to make a misstep and be on the wrong side of the fence. And so,
Mhm.
but that dance can be tiring, but if you know how to navigate it, you can do it, and you can continue to advance your career. So,
Yes.
um, let's see. So tell us about your podcast. So Slaypedia, out and
So,
like what are
yeah.
some topics you feature on and how can we
So the
listen?
So the podcast is a passion project of mine. One thing about my family is made up of half African American, half Latina, half Latin. They are Puerto Rican, and so one of the things in Black and Brown communities, there is a huge disconnect from wealth conversations. I'll hear people say, oh, Black people need to do this, and we need to buy property and buy land, right? But it's very easy to preach and talk at an entire culture of people than it is to actually break down and show them what you mean when you say that. Yes, we should buy property, but most people may not understand exactly how that works. And so, with the Wall Street Chick, that podcast is basically taking market information, market forecasting, things that's happening in Wall Street Journal, and taking all of that and providing a market update. Just a few days ago, I think it was yesterday, I did an episode where I introduced people in my community to what green energy is, because I'm also moving into green energy. What is green tech and how can it impact you? Should you be investing in renewable or non-renewables right now? What does that even mean? And so these are the conversations that we need to get ahead of before 2025 comes here. And the only people that's hiring are hydro, solar, and solar farm companies, because everything's green. And now you feel like you've been caught off guard. And so for the people who want to diversify their wealth portfolio or actually grow one, these are the conversations we need to have. These are the direction. This is the direction in which we need to go, where we understand market information, and we understand what's happening in Wall Street, in Financial Times, New York Post. And so that on that podcast, I break it down into digestible bites.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you guys listen. The link to the Daniella's podcast is going to be in the show notes. So definitely take a listen. I'm a big proponent of investing and diversification of funds, income, all the things. So just make sure that you take a listen to that and check the show notes, episode 46. Today has been.
It broke up so much. I didn't hear you.
I said, what do you feel like your biggest accomplishment has been?
Ooh, my biggest accomplishment is basically literally watching people's life change from a place of, going from paycheck to paycheck. And then once they come through the program, they're a little nervous that they spent the money to get in. And then hearing them call me and say, I got this job, I'm making 170, 190, they offer me this. I think that's the most proud moment, because it's helping people break generational curses and bad financial planning, and poverty expectations, in many households. And so I think that's my most proud moment, is watching Black women, Latin women compete at the level of a white male. That's my proud moment.
Awesome. I say I have to give you a hand clap on that one.
Yeah, I get the feel goods.
Yes, yes. Kind of a similar vein. Yes. In a similar vein, we feel like your big.
Say that again. It broke off at the last part.
I said the biggest lesson you've learned on your journey thus far.
One of the biggest lessons I've learned is how powerful our mindset is. And I'm starting to talk about this a little bit more on my podcast. Like that wealth mindset, that is one of the biggest lessons I learned, because once you realize the potential, the talent, the gift that you have, or whatever it is that you bring to the table, it allows you to move with some type of aggression and power that I can't even really explain. And so watching my journey growing up in a household, I'm the first in my family to go off to college. And for every obstacle I overcame, I actually used that as something to fuel me and prove to myself that, I can literally do anything. I can create anything. I can put stuff out into the atmosphere and watch it come to be. And so I think the most powerful lesson is that I've learned is, one, there's power in the community. There's room enough for all of us to eat. Second, the most important thing is where our mindset is going, where our attention is going. So many times we play these stories when people come into my master's class. A lot of the times, Black women, we play a story of failure that's not ours. Just because your mom was divorced and struggling, or your grandma struggled, it doesn't mean that you're going to struggle. And so many of us have someone's story that's dead on repeat. And so the biggest lesson I learned is to kind of kill that story and create my own.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And lastly, are there any books or any articles that you recommend us to check out on entrepreneurship or
I'm
anything
always
else?
going to advocate heavy for Wall Street Journal, because I don't know how many times I can stress that. Financial Times. So Wall Street Journal and Financial Times. Wall Street Journal is like that old school money. Financial Times is much more liberal and more millennial based. And so you get the best of both worlds. It's a good thing to see what both of them are saying. But if you ask me what's my go-to, is Wall Street, because I trust old school wealth over anything. They always know cyclical patterns when it comes to money. And so, yeah, I would recommend watching those things. The podcast I love. Your podcast is amazing. I also like Kevin O'Leary's. He shares a lot of information on how he made his first million, his biggest failures, and things of that caliber. And so, yeah, just get in tune with more things that are in alignment. As far as books, the book that I have been reading now is more of, it's called Atomic Habits. It's about basically making goals and actually sticking to them. And that book is definitely life-changing.
Yes, I'm familiar with Atomic Habits. I always forget the author, but I know exactly what book you're talking about. Yes. Atomic Habits, y'all.
It's a good book, especially if you don't follow through. I can't hear.
Like, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, to check those out, and that you continue to use them as resources.
I can't hear.
Okay. Yeah, we're just pausing for questions.
Okay. Oh, I didn't even look at the questions. Hey, there you guys are.
Okay, I'm not seeing any come in. So Daniella, you want to go ahead and drop your social media handle back with you?
Sure. It's Instagram.com/Slaypedia. That's S as in sit, L as in log, A as in apple, Y as in yo-yo, pedia like Wikipedia, all together, Slaypedia. And then Facebook.com/Slaypedia. And on both of those sites, I have links to my free master's class for you guys to attend if you'd like.
Awesome. So guys, if you all would like more information on Daniella, how to connect with her, and just the links to her social media, that information will be in the show notes. And the show notes can be accessed at isimplishe.com/podcast. Again, that's isimplishe.com/podcast. If you'd like to join a collective of women passionate about empowering themselves, setting goals in alignment with their core values, and reaching new levels of success in their business and personal lives, join the She Army Facebook community. The link to join is also in the show notes. And I hope this discussion today has been helpful for all of you. And remember, you too can conquer if you slay hard every day. Thanks so much, Daniella, for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy Inauguration Day.
Uh,